I was born in Brooklyn, New York, actually Flatbush, which everybody laughs at when I tell them. And that was back in '08, and people laugh when I say '08 because they don't quite understand that we went back that far. But anyway, I went to grade school, of course, in Brooklyn, and graduated from PS 92, and then I went to Erasmus Hall High School, which is quite a famous high school. It goes back to the 1700s or something like that. And it was a wonderful high school, but in 1924, my father was transferred to Chicago from, his business was in New York City. He was an insurance accountant. And so then I came over to Chicago, and we were fortunate enough to find a place to live. I rent a place in Oak Park, and so I was fortunate to go to a good high school in New York, and then I finished up from 1924 to 1926 at Oak Park High School. I started working right away in 1926, July of 1926, at the Continental Bank of Chicago, which was called the Illinois Trust Company at that time. And I worked there for some, I use the expression work because people used to say, oh, you got such a cushy job down at the bank. But we didn't get too much money. But on the other hand, if you studied back in those days, in Thompson's restaurant, a ham sandwich was a nickel, a cup of coffee was a nickel. You could get quite a bit for 50 cents. You wouldn't believe that. And if I brought home 35 cents to my wife, she thought I was a hero. I always am amused talking to my children because they wanted to know, how I met my wife and all that kind of stuff, And I had gone to a party on a Saturday night with a girl that I went with, and in those days anyway, it seemed to be that the people would get together and they'd go out in the kitchen and gab and so on. And the men would go in one room and the women would go in another room. And anyway, my wife, I found out later, she was very upset because she had expected to go to this party with a Culver Academy boy, and he turned her down at the last minute. But he arranged, he said, for her to go to the party with a friend of his. So she was really seething when she came to the party, and she glommed onto me and started telling me her troubles because she wasn't with the lady. But anyway, we sat on the Davenport for a while, and somehow my arm got around her, and the next thing you know, I thought, this is an awfully nice person. And I think that the thing that sold me was the fact that she said after a while, and we might have had one small drink or so, but not too much. She said, I think you're swell. And I thought, this is the woman for me, because nobody had ever told me that before. She was a volunteer at the Northwest Community Hospital. And every Friday I would take her over to the hospital, and she would be one of the pink ladies over there. She loved to take care of children. The newborn babies was her special favorite, And I said to myself, here my wife has been doing all this volunteering. I ought to try to do something too, and I live just down the street. So I came over to the library here and asked if there's anything they could do. And they had about 3 or 4 volunteers at that time, but it was not an active occupation. And as a matter of fact, there was a lot of dissension, if you want to call it that. Some people didn't want volunteers. Some of the paid help didn't want volunteers there because they thought maybe they'd be taking away paid jobs. And so then I think the figure now is that they have 130 volunteers, and it's just amazing. Back in 1991, Channel 2 had a Man of the Week or a Volunteer of the Week, and they named me. And the woman said the reason they did was because I had over 4,000 hours of volunteer time. She seemed to think that was a lot. Now I have over 7. I think one of the most important things is thinking of other people. I mean, we're all selfish to some extent, but And the older I get, the more I realize that if I can accomplish something and make somebody else happy, and of course I concentrate on my family, my children, and my grandchildren, and I've got such a reward out of the love that comes back from at least the children who don't know any better. I mean, they think I'm okay, you know. I think that you accomplish most if you have a reason to get up in the morning. Some people say, oh, isn't it wonderful you can retire and you can do just what you want. But it's a very selfish life, and I think if you have a reason to get up, for example, that's why I enjoy the library so much. Every Thursday morning I say, get up, you know, you're going to the library, and then I see my good friends.